That was one of those moments that was like, wow, this is really happening. You know, everyone's just focused on going and they're hoisting this body up. And I just remember sitting there and I'm like, this is the craziest business. Hi, I'm Michael Bauman. I'm the cinematographer of Monster. And we're going behind the scenes with Collider. Max Winkler, the director, and I spent a lot of time playing with a lot of visual references, hundreds and hundreds of images, not just of the actual like Gein crimes and the environment at that time, a lot of other movie references, especially leading into like Capote. We wanted to kind of contrast the calmness and the sereneness of the environment of the planes against like what was going on. It was really trying to mix these beautiful vista shots of just everything going on and just seeing this world that is very lonely, and then contrasting just kind of how that affected Ed and his character development. The start of scene of episode 2, he's plowing the field and then all of a sudden everyone starts running by him. It was a pretty elaborate sequence and we really needed the light to be in the right spot. And so we kind of had mapped out when to do it. And the wild card was that we didn't know what the field conditions were going to be like because the weather was shifting. We were shooting this outside of Moments, Illinois. And so we ended up with this arm car running with them. There was just a moment when it all kind of came together. This really worked. Like the planning all worked. There was just so many departments were involved in trying to make that all come together, from locations to wardrobe to casting, finding like marathon runners who could do these kind of things. It was a really interesting combination that when we did it, it almost came together flawlessly, where we had the cameras located and everything came and no one was injured, which was fantastic because it was very slippery. That was one of those moments that was like, wow, this is really happening. There was stuff that didn't make the movie, but it was like, what if we put a camera in the eye of the skull or things like that? But it was certainly, there's that one shot where in the ice box, this guy is like, okay, we need the 9 dried vulvas thing. And it was like, okay, well, let's put the camera in the ice box. And then you're having conversations about, should we see parts of the vulvas, or should it just be a clean shot of the face? There was a lot of those interesting conversations about like, okay, we need to photograph the nipple on the chair. Does the light catch it better if we move the chair around? Okay, let's see here. Okay, yeah, that's good. The nipple looks good there. You know, there's a lot of those kind of like just experimental moments of trying to find stuff. Even though it was more of a classically told story as far as lensing, because the content was so extreme at times, there's certainly moments where it was like, okay, let's put the camera in the skulls, or let's try and find something through a rib cage or whatever. Some very unique type of things. We tested a lot of lenses during prep, and we ended up settling on a set of Kawas that Panavision had. And then we also had some of their P-Vintage series, a Petzl, a 58mm Petzl, which was great. We really ended up with the Kawas mainly because their flare quality was really interesting, and kind of some of their fall off, which kind of lent itself to the period at the time. But we certainly liked playing in the mid-range as far as millimeters, 32, 35, 40, 50, in that zone. Really being able to get close to the characters, see the faces, because faces were so critical. Just kind of people as they're on this journey, whether it's Ed and his earnestness kind of going in his relationship with his mother, and then going into where in the spaces he went, or some of the other supporting characters underneath it. The Kawas served us really well. All of them had their unique challenges, but certainly some of the visual language inside the house, which was on stage. We had so much work in there, so how to create different myriad of looks, keep it menacing still, but still have opportunities to keep it warm between the moments that he was having that were good. When we were out in just like brutally cold in Chicago, when we started there was like 2 weeks with the wind chill and everything. It was so cold, like some of our lenses, the focus mechanisms just like called it a day and froze. We had this one shot we were doing where Ed is running after these 2 hunters that were coming out of the barn. And so the B camera was on the long lens and they were trying to rack focus. And they were like, Al sending here, hey, what's going on? They're like, we need a minute. And they had to put like heating elements on the lens to get it up to temperature so the focus mechanism would work. That was really challenging, like trying to work in extreme cold. We had a major weather shift then, so we had established all this snow. And then the snow went away. It all melted. So then we were in the mud. We had to still have the continuity of snow. So then you're having conversations about what the balance is between visual effects snow and actual special effects making snow. And they brought in about, 80 tons of ice that they ground up and would put out as snow until it melted. So it was like, we're going to see this part from here to here. And they would be like, all right, well, we'll lay out the snow and try and get shot. So that was just like always kind of keeping visual continuity is really a challenge at times. Anytime we were dealing with like all of these makeup that was made, you know, all the special effects makeup with the skin suits and things like this, it's always a morbid sense of humor, especially with this particular crew. There was a gallows humor love language going on because you're just like on set and you're surrounded by, especially when we got into the parts where he was really crafting everything. And it was just funny. Charlie would have the skin suit on or something, and of course, he's going to be cracking jokes. There's all sorts of little moments of just like trying to reset guts and things like that. And Cameron in the prop department is trying to like find the right thing that has the right amount of squish to it. And there's just like, okay, that didn't work. Let's go back to one, figure out how to get the guts to fall out better or something like that. It was pretty funny. You get into the workflow and you're just like, okay, we've got to get the shot. Like we're shooting the barn where he finds the body. The special effects makeup team had created this, obviously the body and all that, and it was hanging in the barn. It was an incredibly windy day. Like the wind is, and we weren't sure if we could finish shooting. And so the wind is blowing everything around, and you know, everyone's just focused on going, and they're hoisting this body up. And I just remember sitting there and I'm like, this is the craziest business. There's so many of them. Just the interplay with the camera and the actors. There's some of them were like challenging, like the roller rink, and kind of effectively work that and tell that story as you're moving the camera around constantly, and what are the tools for that. But there's definitely stuff of like kind of trying to find the intimacy of him when he was crafting all of this stuff, figure out how to tell that story. Like I'd say the Hitchcock thing was definitely up there. The uniqueness of that storyline. And Tom, the actor who played Hitchcock, had to do like 4 or 5 hours of makeup every day just to get into that rig. You kind of have to really be cautious on how you're photographing him and all this. And so it was really a challenge to find the right angles and the right way to tell that story. Yeah, that was definitely an interesting set of challenges. I'm really proud of like some of the stuff that we're able to do in the house and just kind of how to use that environment. Because sometimes when you come back to an environment a lot, it becomes very routine, and it's trying to figure out how to find new angles and new ways of lighting a space. And I think the house became like at first it was his refuge and his place that he really held dear. And then it kind of devolved into like this, as his mental state went downhill. I'm really happy with how that turned out. Just the sereneness of the vistas and some of the compositions that we were able to get out of all those environments was really cool.